Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Adult Bible Class. Great to see you joining us this morning. If you're following along in the book, we've got a curious title, Work with Wisdom. I guess that's applicable, but I supercharged it to Solomon dedicates the temple. But before he dedicates it, he's got to build it. So we're going to have the building of the temple today, the dedication of the temple. It's some fantastic things happened. This was like the crowning achievement of Israel's architecture. The period of time where David and his son Solomon reigned in Israel was the golden age. This is what everybody's been waiting for. Beginning with the slaves that came out of Egypt, they were looking for that land of milk and honey, and it's taken them about 400 years to get to this point from the time they came out of Egyptian slavery. And now David has vanquished Israel's enemies. He's pushed them out basically, but not completely. Not completely. They never completely got rid of the Canaanites. And we're going to see that some of the people that got left in the promised land actually participated in the building of the temple. What? That sounds crazy, doesn't it? Well, we'll talk about that when we get to it today. But some of the people that they did not push out of the promised land actually participated in the building of this great crowning achievement of both David and Solomon. David got the plans of the temple from the Lord, but the Lord wouldn't let him build it because he was a bloody man of war. But he said, your son Solomon can build it. So David transferred the plans to Solomon, and Solomon builds the great temple, and it's just so wonderful. We're going to read how amazing and wonderful it was, and the building was just, this was the crowning achievement of these people that have been chosen by God to bring the Savior into the world. But at the end of the lesson, I'm going to have to bring you back to reality and realize that this is just going to be there for 370 years. That's all. This wonderful thing that's, wait till you read it. It's fantastic how grand this was and how grand the project was and how grand Solomon's kingdom was. They were loaded. They were rich. They were happy. Everybody was happy. They had peace. They had no enemies. It was perfect and wonderful. But guess what happens? What are they going to do? They're going to blow it. The same thing that the whole group of them has been doing since they came out of Egypt. But this is our story, y'all. They're not something different from us. We're the same as them. They're just like us. So we have to look at this story and we have to beware, and we have to individually, we have to beware that we don't fall into the same things that Solomon fell into. And it was really Solomon that really, he led them to the Lord, but then he disobeyed the Lord. And he disobeyed the Lord in some big ways. Now, not like David. Solomon, as far as we know, didn't commit adultery and murder, but he did marry 700 wives and 300 concubines, which the Lord said, don't get too many wives. Do you think he thought he was under the limit? There was no limit. It was just don't get too many wives. I guess maybe.
God gave him wealth, so with wealth comes that.
Yep. He was spreading the wealth around. Can you imagine that harem? Wow.
I think he married others to get away from the first ones.
Well, he just kept going through them, Jay. Just kept going through those women. But,
did they all live there?
well, not sure about exactly where they live, but I'm sure a lot of them did. So anyway, wouldn't you think the wisest man, God gave him supernatural wisdom. Wouldn't you think he would be wise enough not to break these few little rules that God gave the king? Don't have too many wives. Don't have too many horses. Why couldn't he? Wisest man. Why couldn't he get that straight? Because he's like us. We we've got that flesh, and that flesh never goes away. Have you noticed? You can fast and fast and fast, and that flesh still has a mind of its own, right? So we've got to deal with that. So let this be a lesson to all of us that even though everything's going great and times are good, if times are good for you, God bless you, enjoy it. Solomon said, live it up while you can, so to speak. But don't forget, we've still got this propensity to rebel against the Lord and to disobey Him. And when we do, we're going to have consequences. So let's read this about Solomon today. Glad to see everybody joining us. And let's see make sure I got all of this covered in that intro. So Solomon and David, greatest kings of Israel, presided over the greatest time of wealth and prosperity. But both of those men had tremendous baggage. We know that David committed adultery, then he committed murder. And the Lord told him, you're forgiven, David, but you're going to suffer the consequences of what you've done in your family forever. The sword will never depart from your house, is the way the Lord put it. And he did have lots of problems with his children. Several of his children rebelled and tried to take over the kingdom from David. Not Solomon. He was one of the good ones, apparently. But then Solomon, he couldn't stop with the horses. He couldn't stop with the women. And then the third thing that the Lord said for the king was not too many riches. And I mean, wow. He was completely loaded with riches. Wait till you see the gold he put in the temple. Everything was covered with gold. Everything. So we're going to read about that today. So we rejoice with Solomon and Israel in their great crowning achievement of their peace and prosperity and building this great temple to the Lord. But what was the temple for? Well, it was to hold the Ark of the Covenant. And what was the Ark of the Covenant for? It was to hold the covenant, the 10 Commandments. And we're going to read today that the only thing in the Ark at this time were the 10 Commandments. So this whole thing, all of the celebration, all of the sacrifices, all of the building and the power and the majesty and the grandeur of this was to enshrine those 10 rules. I used to think that the temple was to enshrine the presence of the Lord. And the presence of the Lord was there, but the presence of the Lord cannot be compressed down into a building, and Solomon's going to tell us that today. The presence of the Lord was there in the Holy of Holies, just like it's everywhere. But it was there because that's where the covenant was. That's where the rules of the agreement were. That's where the 10 laws were, the 10 words. And as long as they obeyed them, everything else was great. But remember, number 1, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Number 2, you shall not make any graven image. That's an idol. Number 3, you shall not take the Lord's name in vain. If you could keep those 3, it seems like the rest of them would logically follow, as long as you treat other people right. But it was those 3 that really made them stumble. And really the first 2. That's why God put them 1 and 2. That was the ones that they had to contend with. So all of this is really about to enshrine and to memorialize those 10 rules. And that's what they really needed to focus on. I made a little mistake on my last lesson, and I wanted to kind of clear that up because I mentioned that Solomon was the bloodline of Jesus. And here, back to the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and then Judah. And then a few generations later, King David came. And the Lord told King David, actually, this is one of our Jesus Psalms that we're going to be covering in the Jesus Psalm, Psalms 89. But the Lord said, I have made a covenant with my chosen. I have sworn to my servant David, your seed I will establish forever and build up your throne to all generations. This is known as the Davidic covenant. The Lord made an agreement with David. And so from David, we have these 2 sons. We have a bunch of sons, of course. But these 2 I wanted to point out to you. Nathan, last name David's son, right? And King Solomon, also last name David's son, both came from David. And I've got both of them in red because I want to show you both of these sons lead to the Messiah, Jesus. So in the book of Luke, we have Mary's genealogy coming from Nathan. And in the book of Matthew, we have Joseph. This is that Mary and Joseph from Christmas, right? Mary and Joseph from Christmas. The book of Matthew, we have Joseph's bloodline. And then we have, so what this is actually the biological sons of David come through Nathan because Jesus was born of Mary. But technically, Jesus was not born of Joseph. Joseph was not part of that union with Mary that produced that seed of the woman. So the royal sons of David come from Solomon. So I'm going to, as we progress through the lessons, we're going to be focusing on this line of David. And even though the bloodline to Jesus doesn't go through here, the bloodline goes through here. And you see why I'm saying that, because Joseph was not exactly related to Jesus, but Mary was, being his mother. But I'm going to highlight this line because this is going to be the kings. So all of the kings are going to come from here, but yet Jesus is coming from here. And then his adopted father, Joseph, is in the royal bloodline. I hope that made a little more sense. And I don't want to confuse you by highlighting this line as red because it's technically not the bloodline, but it is the king line descended from David. I just wanted to clear that up. And then, of course, we get King Jesus out of that. So I just wanted to recap a couple of things to show you how great Solomon's rule was. You ready, Jackie?
Sure.
Here we go.
Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand that is on the seashore in abundance. They were eating, drinking, and rejoicing.
Okay, doesn't this remind you of the promise to Abraham? As numerous as the seashore. God told Abraham, I'm going to make your children like the sands of the sea and like the stars of heaven. And it finally happened. How many years later? 400 and something. But it finally happened, and times are good. Eating, drinking, rejoicing. Everybody's happy. No enemies. Lots of riches. Everything's going great.
Now Solomon was ruling over all the kingdoms, from the Euphrates River to the land of the Philistines, and to the border of Egypt. They brought tribute and served Solomon all the days of his life.
Look at Solomon's daily provision. It's incredible.
Solomon's provision for one day was 30 cores of fine flour and 60 cores of meal.
Now, we don't know exactly what a core is, but I've heard that it's what one camel can carry, so whatever that is.
10 fat oxen, 20 pasture-fed oxen, and 100 sheep, besides deer, gazelles, roebucks, and fattened geese. For he was ruling over everything west of the Euphrates River, from Tifsha even to Gaza, over all the kings west of the river. And he had peace on all sides surrounding him. So Judah and Israel lived securely, everyone under his vine and his fig tree, from Dan even to Beersheba, all the days of Solomon.
Everybody had a vine. Everybody had a fig tree. There's peace on every side. Everything's going great. Times are really good.
Solomon had 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots and 12,000 horsemen. And those deputies provided food for King Solomon, and all who came to King Solomon's table, each in his month. They allowed nothing to be lacking. They also brought barley and straw for the war horses and baggage horses to the place where it was required, each deputy according to his duty.
Abundance, everything they need. Life is wonderful. Look at Solomon's wisdom.
Now God gave Solomon wisdom and very great discernment and breadth of mind, like the sand that is on the seashore. Solomon's wisdom surpassed the wisdom of all the people of the East and all the wisdom of Egypt, for he was wiser than all other people, more than Ethan the Ezrahite, Heman, Calcol, Darda, the sons of Mahol, and his fame was known in all the surrounding nations.
He was smarter than all those people. And you know those people were smart, right? We don't really know who those are.
He also told 3,000 proverbs, and his songs numbered 1,005.
Mm-hmm.
He told of trees, from the cedar that is in Lebanon, even to the hyssop that grows on the wall. He told also of animals, birds, crawling things, and fish. People came from all the nations to hear the wisdom of Solomon, from all the kings of the earth who had heard of his wisdom.
Solomon knew about animals and bugs and plants. He had a tremendous amount of wisdom. And now in chapter 5, he's going to send a message, and I wanted to point this out to you because Tyre is technically in the promised land. But this is in the territory of the tribe of Asher. It's up north. It's on the Mediterranean. But Asher never conquered Tyre. We see in the New Testament that Jesus mentions Tyre and its sister city, Sidon. And so now this is a city that is in the territory of the promised land, in the area of the territory of the tribe of Asher, and it was never conquered, but now we're going to find out that the king of Tyre, Hiram, was a friend of David. So David never attacked them. David never pushed them out of their city because Asher had not gotten that big yet. Asher had not grown up to fill up its own territory yet. And so they just left Tyre there, but technically it's in the promised land, but they never got removed. Okay.
Now Hiram, king of Tyre, sent his servants to Solomon when he heard that they had anointed him king in place of his father. For Hiram had always been a friend of David. Then Solomon sent word to Hiram, saying, You know that David, my father, was unable to build a house for the name of the Lord, his God, because of the wars which surrounded him, until the Lord put them under the soles of his feet. But now the Lord my God has secured me rest on every side. There is neither adversary nor misfortune.
All right. Let's keep going.
So behold, I intend to build a house for the name of the Lord my God, just as the Lord spoke to David my father, saying, Your son, whom I will put on your throne in your place, he will build a house for my name. Now then, issue orders that they cut cedars from Lebanon for me, and my servants will be with your servants, and I will give you wages for your servants in accordance with all that you say. For you yourself know that there is no one among us who knows how to cut timber like the Sidonians.
Okay, so the Sidonians had a skill. They were very skilled at this wood cutting thing. And so Solomon is going to enlist them. Yeah, better? Yeah. Solomon is going to enlist their help with the temple. Can you believe it? Now, they're not going to come and build the temple, but they're going to be cutting out the wood, and they're going to send the wood down the coastline from Tyre down into the main parts of Israel, where Israel can retrieve that wood and bring it over here and use it in Solomon's temple. This is very interesting because they're technically Canaanites, okay? The people from Tyre. What would you call them? Tyrites? Tights? Tires? Tires. The Tyres from Tyre. So they're going to be helping. They're not going to directly participate, but they're going to be producing the materials for. And so it's very interesting that they are a key component in this building of the tabernacle, or the temple. So Israel at this point, because they had this power and all the abilities that they had developed, they could go up and destroy Tyre. But why? Because they don't have enough population to really populate that area. Asher was not big enough to maintain its entire territory. So they decided to just let these people stay there. And the people from Tyre, the Tyres, were not hostile to Israel. And so since they weren't, it's kind of curious because Israel's going to get in trouble later for making alliances with other nations, because what happens when you start doing that? You start developing their tendencies and they influence you. It's the same with our relationships today. Anybody that you have relationships with has the potential for influencing you. So you have to manage your relationships with other people. That's right. You manage your relationships with other people so that they are not influencing you against the Lord. Okay? We have to guard against that. And it's up to each of us to manage our relationships with other people so that they don't bring us down. We want to bring them up, okay? When Hiram
heard the words of Solomon, he greatly rejoiced, and he said, Blessed be the Lord today, who has given to David a wise son over this great people.
It almost sounds like he's worshiping the Lord here, right? Okay, all right. Good for Hiram. And now look at the laborers. Back when Moses was telling the children of Israel that one day you're going to get a king and here's what he's going to do to you, one of the things that Moses said that the king would do is he's going to take your sons and he's going to conscript them for labor and for the army and for the support of the kingdom. And so here's where it begins to happen. And people have no choice. They have to participate and work in Solomon's program. So they're giving up some of their freedom. You don't have a choice. You have to serve. And if you don't, I'm sure there was some kind of punishment. The Bible doesn't mention it, though.
Now King Solomon conscripted forced laborers from all Israel, and the forced laborers numbered 30,000 men. Then he sent them to Lebanon, 10,000 a month in shifts. They were in Lebanon for a month and 2 months at home, and Adoniram was in charge of the forced laborers.
Now, Lebanon is the area up there in the north where Tyre is located. So there were actually Israelites going up there to help Hiram, king of Tyre, and procure all this wood for the temple.
Now Solomon had 70,000 porters and 80,000 stonemasons in the mountains, besides Solomon's 3,300 chief deputies who were in charge of the project and ruled over the people who were doing the work. Then the king issued orders, and they quarried large stones, valuable stones, to lay the foundation of the house with cut stones. So Solomon's builders and Hiram's builders and the Gebalites cut the stones, and they prepared the timbers and the stones to build the house.
So they're cutting out all the stones, they're cutting all the timbers. Look at this, 3,300 bosses in this project. What a project management nightmare, huh? Where did they get the spreadsheets to manage all this, huh? They didn't have spreadsheets. I don't know how they did it, but they had a lot of bosses, 3,300 bosses to manage the project, all right? And now the Lord is going to speak. We haven't heard from the Lord yet, so let's hear from him. What's he going to say? He's going to reaffirm the Davidic covenant to David's son Solomon.
Now the word of the Lord came to Solomon, saying, As for this house which you are building, if you will walk in my statutes and execute my ordinances, and keep all my commandments by walking in them, then I will fulfill my word with you, which I spoke to David your father.
Just a little reminder from the Lord with this if statement, if then. Here's our if, here's our then. This is the same thing he's been saying for, 400 years? Just a little reminder. Statutes, ordinances, commandments, they're all the same thing, basically. The Lord says, obey those 10 rules. Obey those 10 rules. Specifically, no other gods and no graven images. If you can just obey those laws, the Lord said, I'm going to be with you. I'm going to bless you.
And I will dwell among the sons of Israel, and will not abandon my people Israel.
All right, there you go. So there's the promise again. Look at the gold. Solomon went nuts with gold. Here we go.
So Solomon overlaid the inside of the house with pure gold, and he extended chains of gold across the front of the inner sanctuary, and he overlaid it with gold.
Everything covered with gold.
He overlaid the entire house with gold, until all the house was finished. Also the entire altar, which was by the inner sanctuary, he overlaid with gold.
He's not done with gold. Give us some more gold, Jackie.
Then he carved all the surrounding walls of the house with engravings of cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers for the inner and outer sanctuaries. And he overlaid the floor of the house with gold.
Golden floor.
For the inner and the outer sanctuary.
More gold.
And for the entrance of the inner sanctuary, he made doors of olive wood, the lintel, and 5-sided doorposts. So he made 2 doors of olive wood, and he carved them on carvings of cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers, and overlaid them with gold. And he overlaid the cherubim and the palm trees with gold.
Gold, 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 gold. All right?
In the 4th year, the foundation of the house of the Lord was laid in the month of Ziv. And in the 11th year, in the month of Bul, that is, the 8th month, the house was finished in all its parts, and in accordance with all its plans. So he was 7 years in building it.
7-year building project, thousands and thousands and thousands of laborers, 3,300 bosses on this project, traveling out of the area to retrieve stones and wood and covering everything with gold, basically. And now he's going to build a house for himself. Let's check that out quickly.
Now Solomon built his own house over the course of 13 years, and he finished all of his house.
Wow, 13 years for his own house. I'm sure the people were kind of getting tired of this building. So 13 plus 7, what is that, about 20? 20 years, massive building projects. But they had the money, they had the wealth, they had the peace, they had the manpower, they had everything they needed to do this. They lacked nothing.
So all the work that King Solomon performed in the house of the Lord was finished. And Solomon brought in the offerings vowed by his father David, the silver and the gold and the utensils, and he put them in the treasuries of the house of the Lord.
So the temple actually becomes the national bank. The wealth of the nation is stored in the temple. Okay? And Solomon did that. Now, chapter 8, he's going to bring the ark. David had made a tent, a temporary tent for the ark to stay in. It was in the area of the city of Jerusalem called Mount Zion. There's several mounts there. There's Mount Moriah, Mount Zion, Mount Olives is out to the east, and I think there's another mount in there somewhere. So this is a little confusing when you read it, but you understand that they're moving the ark from Mount Zion, which is in the area of Jerusalem, to Mount Moriah, which is where the temple was built.
Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the leaders of the fathers' households of the sons of Israel, to King Solomon in Jerusalem, to bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord from the city of David, that is, Zion. So all the men of Israel assembled themselves before King Solomon at the feast, in the month of Ethanim, that is, the 7th month. Then all the elders of Israel came, and the priests took up the ark.
Okay, so priests are going to pick up the ark at Mount Zion, which is very nearby, but it's another mountain peak in that area, and they're going to carry it to the new temple. And remember, that's what the purpose of the temple was, to enshrine the ark, which is enshrining the Ten Commandments.
And they brought up the ark of the Lord, the tent of meeting, and all the holy utensils which were in the tent. The priests and the Levites brought them up. And King Solomon and all the congregation of Israel, who were gathered together to him, were with him before the ark, sacrificing so many sheep and oxen that they could not be counted or numbered.
Wow. They couldn't count them. There was so many. Counting, they just couldn't even count all the sacrifices. This is extravagant, okay? And now what's going to happen, just like when Moses built the tabernacle in the wilderness, and this cloud and this brightness, this glory of the Lord comes in and fills the place, same thing is going to happen here with the temple that Solomon has made, and it happens when they put the ark in there.
Then the priests brought the ark of the covenant of the Lord to its place into the inner sanctuary of the house, to the most holy place under the wings of the cherubim.
Okay, they put it in place.
There was nothing in the ark except the 2 tablets of stone which Moses put there at Horeb, where the Lord made a covenant with the sons of Israel when they came out of the land of Egypt.
They've been carrying these 10 words written on tables of stone since Moses went up the mountain the 4th time. Remember that? He went up the 4th time, got the 10 Commandments. He was later to go up 2 more times after that because he had to get a copy. And forgot what the other trip up there was. But anyway, so they've been carrying this around for 400 and something years. It's finally reached its destination. This is where it's going to stay. Yes, sir, Jay.
So I didn't read the history of this. So what happened to the jar of manna in Aaron's
Not sure.
body?
Not sure.
Philistines got hungry.
Probably when they took it, when the Philistines took it, they may have raided the Ark of the Covenant, taken out the manna, taken out Aaron's rod. We don't know what happened. The Bible just doesn't say what happened to those items. Yes, sir, Zeb.
Remember David took it?
Took what?
The money?
Not sure. He took the showbread that was at Nob. Yeah, but I don't know that was the manna out of the. I don't think that was the manna. I think that was on the table of showbread. I think that's what he took. So we don't really know what happened to Aaron's rod. We do know that it was associated with the ark back in the wilderness wandering. I don't even know if we hear about it once they get into the promised land. But Aaron's rod is no longer mentioned at this point. Neither is the manna. Boy, that's some long-lasting manna with no preservatives, huh? How did he do that? Okay, so nothing in the ark but the tables of stone that Moses put there. So this is really what the whole temple is about. It's about the covenant.
And it happened that when the priests came from the holy place, the cloud filled the house of the Lord, so that the priest could not stand to minister because of the cloud. For the glory of the Lord filled the house of the Lord.
All right, now we're going to have a lot of talking by Solomon, and it's going to be a little bit long reading, but we're going to read it because it's very beautiful. He's going to talk, he's going to bless the Lord, then he's going to bless the people. He's going to pray over the dedication of the temple.
Then Solomon said, "The Lord has said that he would dwell in the thick darkness. I have truly built you a lofty house, a place for your dwelling forever." Then the king turned around and blessed all the assembly of Israel, while all the assembly of Israel was standing. He said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel, who spoke with his mouth to my father David and fulfilled it with his hands, saying, Since the day that I brought my people Israel from Egypt, I did not choose a city out of all the tribes of Israel in which to build a house, so that my name would be there. But I chose David to be over my people Israel. Now it was in the heart of my father David to build a house for the name of the Lord, the God of Israel.
Okay, so here comes his prayer.
But the Lord said to my father David, Because it was in your heart to build a house for my name, you did well that it was in your heart. Nevertheless, you shall not build a house, but your son who will be born to you will build the house for my name."
Sorry, that was the Lord. Here comes the prayer coming up.
Now the Lord has fulfilled his word which he spoke, for I have risen in place of my father David, and I sit on the throne of Israel, just as the Lord promised. And I have built the house for the name of the Lord, the God of Israel, and there I have set a place for the ark, in which is the covenant of the Lord, which he made for our fathers, when he brought them out of the land of Egypt.
Well, that didn't sound like a prayer, but it's coming up, I promise you. Here comes the prayer. Here comes the prayer. Here it is right here.
Then Solomon stood before the altar of the Lord in the presence of all the assembly of Israel, and he spread out his hands toward heaven.
All right, here comes the prayer.
And he said, "Lord, God of Israel, there is no God like you in heaven above or on earth beneath, keeping the covenant and showing faithfulness to your servants who walk before you with all their heart. You have kept with your servant, my father David, that which you promised him. You have spoken with your mouth and have filled it with your hand, as it is this day."
Not only that, but this whole bringing them out of Egypt and giving them the promised land and helping them overcome the Canaanites, which technically they weren't strong enough to overcome the Canaanites. As we saw, when they failed the Lord, they were always defeated. But as they were obeying the Lord, they were strong enough to push out these enemies that were living in walled, fortified cities. Remember, they had very crude instruments of war. They didn't have howitzers. They didn't have flamethrowers. They didn't have jets.
Just imagine them with a machine.
And these people were in walled, fortified fortress cities. But yet the Lord made a way for them to overcome these people and to take the land and to build up this great edifice to the Lord. Let's keep going with the prayer.
"Now then, Lord God of Israel, keep with your servant David, my father, that which you have promised him, saying, You shall not be deprived of a man to sit on the throne of Israel, if only your sons are careful about their way, to walk before me as you have walked."
Oh, he's careful not to forget the if statement, right? Because all of the blessings are conditional. All of the blessings are conditional. The promises are not conditional. When the Lord makes a promise, it's based on his honor and his word. Promises are not conditional, but the blessings are conditional based upon our obedience.
"Now then, God of Israel, let your words please be confirmed, with which you have spoken to your servant, my father David.
Okay? He's still praying.
But will God indeed dwell on the earth? Behold, heaven and the highest heaven cannot contain you. How much less this house which I have built?"
All right, here's the wise man, and this is really, really wise right here. He knows this isn't a house for God. It's really a house for the covenant. But, I mean, we say the Lord dwelt in the temple, and yes, they did have that cloud experience with the brightness and the glory of the Lord, but you can't compress the Lord, right? He's not really existing in the physical universe that we exist in. We say he's in heaven, but what that really means is he's in another realm. He's in a realm that's right here. But we can't see it, we can't feel it, we can't sense it. But he's in another realm that we call heaven. Heaven is not necessarily another place, because that would make God confined to physical things. He's not confined to physical aspects. But when we say the Lord's in heaven, we mean he's in another realm that we can't sense here. So heaven can't contain you. Now this heaven and heavens, that's the atmosphere and space. So even as vast as space is, it's not big enough to hold the Lord. He doesn't exist in the universe as we think of it.
Nevertheless, turn your attention to the prayer of your servant and to his plea, Lord my God, to listen to the cry and to the prayer which your servant prays before you today, so that your eyes may be open toward this house night and day, toward the place of which you have said, my name shall be there, to listen to the prayer which your servant will pray toward this place.
Okay?
And listen to the plea of your servant and of your people, Israel, when they pray towards this place. Here in heaven, your dwelling place. Hear and forgive.
Now this wasn't really some kind of magic about praying towards the building. Okay? It's just an acknowledgement that we're calling on the Lord whose covenant is enshrined in this building, but there was nothing magic about the building. But you know what? We like the fact that we have a building for the Lord. Have you ever come up to the church, this one or any other church, when nobody's here, and you just open the door and go in if you have a key? You go in and it's super quiet. And I've done this in the three churches that I've participated in ministry. And you go in there and it's super quiet, and all you can hear is the air conditioner turning on and off. And you can hear the building creaking. You know, as children, we used to talk about the angels walking around. That's not angels. That's the building expanding and contracting with the heat and the cold. But it does give you a sense of awe and reverence and holiness. And I've never gone into a church by myself, you know, with the lights down or maybe the lights completely off. This one's really dark because we have no windows. It is an awe-inspiring feeling, and you feel like you're in there with the Lord. But there's nothing really special about this. There's nothing magic about this room here. We hallow it. We make it holy. We protect it. But the Lord's not really, he's not about physical locations. He's just as real in this room as he is in that room. So people like to hallow physical locations. That's just us. And they were the same way. Yes, of course, they thought that there's something kind of, maybe not magical, but kind of magical about the temple. And even Solomon, he says, when we pray, we're going to face this way. But that's really not, that's the thing. You're facing the Lord. That's really what it's about, okay? All right, let's keep reading this prayer. We're almost done with it.
When they sin against you, for there is no person who does not sin.
Oh, there's no person? I'm glad he put that in there, okay?
And you are angry with them and turn them over to an enemy, so that they take them away captive to the land of the enemy, distant or near. If they take it to heart in the land where they have been taken captive, and repent and implore your favor in the land of those who have taken them captive, saying, we have sinned and done wrong, we have acted wickedly.
Solomon, this is another if statement, just in case, saying, Lord, if in the future, if we blow it, if we mess up, and if we acknowledge it, if we acknowledge our sin, if we admit that we've done wickedly,
if they return to you with all their heart and with all their soul in the land of their enemies who have taken them captive, and pray to you towards their land which you have given to their fathers, the city which you have chosen, and the house which I have built for your name.
this is a long sentence, by the way. This sentence lasts for 3 slides. This is number 1. It's a long sentence.
Then hear their prayer and their pleading in heaven, your dwelling place, and maintain their cause, and forgive your people who have sinned against you, and all their wrongdoings which they have committed against you, and make them objects of compassion before those who have taken them captive, so that they will have compassion on them, for they are your people and your inheritance, which you have brought out of Egypt from the midst of the iron furnace.
Don't forget, we can apply this to us. This really applies to us too. The concept is the same. We are his people today. And the same things that Solomon is saying here applies to us today. If we sin, if we realize we've done it, if we acknowledge it and confess it and forsake it, the same as what Solomon is praying here. All right, last slide for the prayer.
So that your eyes may be open to the pleading of your servant and to the pleading of your people Israel, to listen to them whenever they call to you. For you have singled them out from all the peoples of the earth as your inheritance, just as you spoke through Moses your servant, when you brought our fathers out of Egypt, Lord God.
Each one of us has been singled out. Do you realize that? You were singled out to be here. You were singled out to be called by the Lord. Think about all your friends. Think about your family. Why are you different? You were singled out. I mean, you had to respond, right? So there's a two-part thing going on there. The Lord singled you out, but yet you have to respond. We have to keep responding to Him. But He singled us out. All right, and then
When Solomon had finished praying this entire prayer and plea of the Lord, he stood up from the altar of the Lord, from kneeling on his knees with his hands spread toward heaven.
that's a good way to pray.
And
Okay?
he stood and blessed all the assembly of Israel with a loud voice, saying, Blessed be the Lord, who has given rest to his people Israel in accordance with everything that he promised. Not one word has failed of all his good promise, which he promised through Moses his servant. May the Lord our God be with us, as he was with our fathers. May he not leave us nor forsake us, so that he may guide our hearts toward himself, to walk in all his ways, and to keep his commandments, his statutes, and his ordinances, which he commanded our fathers.
All right, he's still going.
And may these words of mine, with which I have implored the favor of the Lord, be near to the Lord, our God, day and night, so that he will maintain the cause of his servant and the cause of his people Israel, as each day requires, so that all the peoples of the earth may know that the Lord is God, and there is no one else. Your hearts therefore shall be wholly devoted to the Lord our God, to walk in his statutes and to keep his commandments as at this day.
So Solomon is charging them right here. You've got to continue to walk in his statutes, continue to keep his commandments. And now look at this, a happy ending. We didn't read all of the chapter because it's really long. But Solomon and Israel, after this prayer, are going to sacrifice 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. How long do you think that took? And just imagine the enormous area of 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. This is on a grand scale. This is beyond what we can even imagine in our minds of what a great and tremendous thing this was, the building and the dedicating of the temple. And now the celebration begins. And they're going to feast on these sacrifices for 7 days. These were sacrifices that were made for the eating and the enjoyment of the people. So a big party, a 7-day feast, and on the 8th day...
On the 8th day he dismissed the people, and they blessed the king. Then they went to their tents joyful and with happy hearts, for all the goodness that the Lord had shown to David his servant, and to Israel his people.
All right, that's the happy ending, but that's not the end. That's the happy part of the ending. But I told you in the beginning, I'm going to bring you back to reality. So here comes the Bible. It hits you, it gets you, and it fits you. The centerpiece of the temple was the covenant between Israel and the Lord, the 10 Commandments. That's what all of this was about, to memorialize those 10 rules, which were the agreement between the Lord and Israel. Even Solomon, in all his wisdom, was overcome by his horses and his wives and his riches. He was wise, but he still had trouble with self-management. That's our problem, right? All of our problems come down to, can we manage ourselves? Can we control these desires of the flesh? Can we not say the things that we want to say to people when they hurt us? Can we not mistreat people? Can we not strike back when we're struck? Right? Turn the other cheek, he said. Solomon's temple will stand for about 370 years. That's really not long for what they put into it, right? But here's what's going to happen. Sadly, Israel will disobey their covenant with the Lord. That's the 10 words. They're going to disobey so much and for so long that the Lord is going to take them out of the promised land. They're going to lose the temple. They're going to lose all that gold. Somebody else is going to come in and get the gold. The magnificent temple of Solomon will be completely destroyed by the Babylonians, and the Lord is going to judge Israel because of what? Idolatry. Idolatry. They couldn't put God first. I know, it's a problem. We got to struggle with it today. We got to put God first. Put Him first in your decisions. Put Him first in your day. That's the best way to start out. Put Him first in your day so that throughout the day, you've got Him on your mind and your decisions will be based on your relationship with the Lord and not on what the flesh wants. Thank you for staying late. God bless you. See you next time.